And the market, if any of them are in the GTA, a lot of our listeners are kind of all over. They're all over
Yeah.
Ontario. But I mean, the market is absolutely insane here, that's for sure. So, Katia, we would like to welcome you. We'll get we'll get to know you a little bit and kind of have everybody else get to know you. Are you nervous?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Well, I reached out to Crystal, as you know, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you guys along for this hour-long ride that Crystal and I do every 2 weeks together. And I live my life through you, as we all know, watching and following you, Crystal, on Facebook.
Yeah.
What we're doing, my friend, is we're starting to kind of get to know other realtors in our community who have really done that self-check, that kind of, okay, I'm not really getting where I want to be with my leads, but I feel like I'm doing everything. And is it agent locator? Is it the market? Is it this? And these are the realtors, Crystal, that we're bringing on with us every 2 weeks, who have kind of taken a step back and went, wait a minute, I've got the systems. What am I not doing? What am I missing? And taking a step back and doing that kind of, like I like to call it, self-check. So I want to introduce everybody to a phenomenal realtor here at our neighborhood, Katia Lamerez. And maybe I'm just going to open it up, hun. I can tell you my observations of this amazing realtor. As I mentioned to you, Crystal, this is a realtor that has always done really good business, then entered into being a mom and was like, okay, now I'm a mom, now I'm a realtor. How do I make that work? And then became a mom again. And as I sat and watched you, Katia, develop in between how to put your family first, as well as being a full-time realtor, and then still self-check yourself and go, well, wait a minute, what am I doing? What am I not doing to make these leads work for me a little better? So can you, Katia, introduce yourself to everybody and kind of give them your background, how long you've been in the market, or how long you've been a realtor, and where you found you had to do that? Okay, wait a minute, I got to self-check because it's me. And we're going to give you the floor.
So I've been in the industry for about 8 years. It wasn't always full-time. I'd say probably full-time the last 5 years. But I've had like a lot of change within that period. Like I became a mom for the first time, so I kind of took some time off there. And then COVID happened, so that was super weird. And then I had another kid. So I would say come November is like where I really like kind of rejigged my business. I've always, in the last 10 years, I've been living like on the West End. I just recently moved back to Clarington like 2 years ago. So really, after I finished my last mat leave and I started going into work full force again, I kind of treated myself as a brand new agent because I was in a new area. Like I grew up in Clarington, but I really hadn't done much business at that time in Clarington. It was all in Toronto and West, which with now having 2 small kids, like it was important for me to like work a little bit closer to home if possible. So I would say like come November is when like everything kind of changed for me. I had to change like my mindset, the way that I started doing my business and taking care of my leads. Like they've always kind of been there. I've been lucky enough to have like a really good sphere around me that it's always kept me really busy. But now working in a new area, these leads were kind of like my way to get into the Durham market. So I had to nurture those a lot more. And it's taken me some time, but I feel like over the last few months I've gotten into a really good groove. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now.
So your aha moment was you were in the West End of the GTA and you had a significant amount of sphere of influence that kind of kept you busy and working as a realtor. But your aha moment, if I'm hearing the takeaway, was now you're back to an area that you haven't lived in a number of years. And now your reliance on the Google pay-per-click leads really needed to be in check, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, prior to you doing that self-check, going, okay, like it's time, I gotta work. What was your experience like with the leads prior to that? Were you converting that much, or did you feel like you weren't working them like you should or could have?
Um, I didn't convert them before. Up until November, I believe, is when I started really actually being in the car with these people. I think before that, it was kind of like, I had great conversations. I had a lot of people like on my radar, but I don't think I was putting as much into it as I should have because I didn't know. I was also on maternity leave, and I just, I had it for like a while, but I just wasn't like really diving in. Whereas come November, when I decided, no, it's time to like go back to work full force, I kind of was like, okay, well, where do I start? Like I've been on maternity leave. Before that, I had like a really bad pregnancy. So I was bedridden for most of the time before that. So, I was like really, really felt like I was starting fresh, but I didn't know like where to start. And I was just like, okay, well, I have these leads, like, I have them all on like the drip campaign that Tara has, which is amazing. And it's kept me in like, when I was really busy, it kept me in contact with these, like all these leads, and it was pretty automatic, and it was a great way to like stay like on top of it in that sense. But I felt like I needed to figure out like what my process would be, right? So I guess over time I've kind of layered things onto it. So I have like the drips going on. So when I get a new lead, I automatically put them on the drip campaign, and then depending on the frequency on our website, I might call them like right away. Or I might just do like soft touches. Like it really depends on the lead and like how active they are, and like, how often they're looking at properties, and I kind of base it on that. So I feel like over time I've really like layered my process.
Yeah.
And it's been working really well for me so far. Like I'm working with a family now. I've had them on my system for over 3 years. And I talked to him the first time I called him. We've spoken on via email, but I decided in January, when I was like, okay, back in the office full time, I need to call all of my people. I think I had like 400 leads, and I was like, I'm going to call everybody. So I called him, had a great conversation with him. I say he's a serial liker because he literally was always like this property viewed 3 times. And I was like, okay, I can't keep sending him these same emails saying, oh, do you want me to show you this property because you liked it? But now I'm working with him and his family, and I've had him on the system for over 3 years.
Wow.
I have a listing at the moment, and he came on the system. Oh, did I cut out there?
No,
Nope,
you're just
Yeah.
connecting
okay.
again differently.
Okay. I had him on the system on Monday, and he was pretty active. So I had called him right away, and on Wednesday I went for a listing appointment.
Wow.
The following Wednesday I listed the house, and he was a really quick lead. He had just come on the system.
And you called him right away.
I did, because he was really active.
Wow.
So
So
it's
it's interesting to me, and Crystal, here we have another example. And you and I have talked at great lengths about this, Katia, even when you were pregnant with your first daughter, about how important those re-login notifications can be to the conversion process.
oh yeah,
Because
it's like my bread and butter.
right, this guy was brand
Yeah.
new on, but he was on and looking and looking and looking and looking. And she was like, okay, something's going on. I'm going to make a call. Right.
Yeah.
And now they're in the car. That is incredible. There is as well, I think, Katia, another layer, and she's extremely humble, this one, Crystal, let me tell you.
Please.
Making calls for Katia is not easy. It wasn't easy. And there was a new member that joined her team who was really into talking to people on the phone. It was very comfortable, is very comfortable, right, girl, for him.
Yeah.
And he would freely, because they have a team office here at the brokerage, he'd be sitting right behind her. You see where she is. He sits right behind her, and he would be calling, and having good conversations. And remember, Katya, you were like, I won't be able to come across like that.
Yeah.
And he sat with you and said, sit with me, let's do it together. And what happened?
Well, my first call that I had, I called like the oldest person on my system. I think it was like over 1,300 days. And we had a great conversation. Like I had this in my head that people were just going to be rude and hang up and they didn't want to talk to me. But it was funny because I only started calling people in January. But before that, like I've had most of these people on my system for like, I mean, some of them for like a few years. And a lot of them actually knew who I was because they've been opening my emails for the last while. So they were like, oh yeah, I just, like, thanks for reaching out. I just saw your email last night, so I think it made me feel really comfortable, but it was super uncomfortable at the beginning. Even some days, like if I have my calling days, like I have to hype myself up a little bit. But I think I've gotten into the groove now where like, I just, if it's not me that's going to work with them, it's somebody else. And I want it to be me. So I want to build that rapport with them. I want to get to them before somebody else. So that's why, like, when I do see that they're liking properties 3 times and I'm getting those notifications, I'm like, okay, this is a phone call one. This isn't a text. And I have noticed as well, like when I first started doing this, I was leaving voicemails, whereas now, like how I'm kind of learning, I find that they don't work. So now I actually, when I call, I don't leave a voicemail. If I've called a few times and I don't leave a voicemail, then I'll just shoot them a text message or something. And I've been getting like a pretty good response. But I'm kind of just like tweaking it as I go, just figure out kind of what works for me. And taking it from there.
So how many, I mean, you don't have to give, I'm not about, Crystal, you know this, I'm not about exact numbers on here because everybody's numbers are their own personal business. But since you really did your self-check, which was kind of in November-ish, but January is where you started putting the layers on top of the drip campaigns and the things that we've coordinated. How many approximate, in a range, people are you working with and closed deals that you've done? Closed, I mean, they've actually bought with you, not necessarily the property's closed.
Okay, so I have 1 that's closed, 2 closing this month. I'm working with a family now from Agent Locator, and then I have about 15 to 20 potential buyers that they are saying that within this year, they are going to look to buy. And I mean, half of them are sales as well, right? So, and these are people, like some of them, I've been speaking to them for like over a year. And I've built sort of that relationship. I had one gentleman reach out to me last night and he's been on my system for 1,200 days. And he was just giving me an update. He said, his circumstances changed. He's getting married. So now he's pushing his date. He wants to buy a house by November. But that was him reaching out to me on his own. So I have about 15 to 20 people that I have on my radar. I have them on my board. I know their potentials. I've been kind of giving them a little bit extra attention. And then I have 1 active listing that's Agent Locator. That'll be a buy and sell. And then buyers that I'm working with right now. And then 2 closings this month from Agent Locator.
So since January, you've got virtually 4 deals, 4 actual deals, and 15 to 20 in the works for probably this year. People that come on our radar are normally people that have had communication with us saying, give me another 30 days. I'm almost ready to rock and roll, or whatever it may be. So let me ask you then, Katya, from how you felt about the leads prior to you doing your self-check in November, do you believe that your mindset was key to your productivity on your leads?
Oh, absolutely. I think like the biggest thing for me was kind of putting myself out there a little bit more. And I had to kind of shift like my head a bit because I was like, well, I'm not cold calling. These people logged onto my website. They want to buy, they likely want to buy a house, or they have some interest in real estate. So I'm not just calling them trying to be like, oh, hey, like, are you looking to sell your house? Or are you looking to buy a house? Like
Right.
they are have interest in that. And then I guess once I got on the phones and I started calling more, like, and learning like how receptive people actually are, um, it just like, I guess it shifted my mentality a little bit. And then as I've been going with it, like I said before, I've kind of realized that if it's not me that's gonna sell them a house, it's somebody else. So
Mhm.
like, why not stay on top of it and be their first choice, right?
It's
So when I see those leads
Mhm.
come in, I'm gonna sell this person a house. This person's my client. Like, I'm just changing the way I think, and for me, it's already like a done deal, right?
Mhm.
I just, if it happens, I think the other big thing for me is like at the beginning, like you'd have like these conversations and be like, okay, oh, well, this person, they don't want to buy yet. They're not ready yet. They only want to buy next year. But I think now it's all about like prospecting to me. And I mean, I don't care if I sell them a house next month,
right.
but it's having that relationship. Once they give me their address, I'm golden. I'm like, cool, I can do my pop buys. Like, they've given me permission. And now I
Mhm.
can start nurturing that relationship. And it's a contact I didn't have before.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I think for me, I'm like, well, it's not necessarily about like immediate money. It's not about an immediate sale. It's about like that relationship, right? And it's giving me like a source to like build those relationships that I didn't have
Mhm.
otherwise, especially like in a new area that I didn't work before.
Exactly. So, Crystal, we
Mhm.
talked with Priscilla 2 weeks ago, who again self-checked and has completely rocked it in regards to conversion, just like Katia. There's a common thread
Mhm.
here that they learned that they had to, there was no choice but to step outside their comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah.
Priscilla said the same thing. Katia, calling was not easy for her by no means.
Yeah.
Mm.
And she was willing to recognize that the call doesn't have to be made on day one. Sometimes you
Mhm.
can make the call, sometimes, as I suggest, on day 30, once they get to know your name a little bit. Or as
Mhm.
Katia does, she watches the relogin notifications and goes, oh, buddy's on a lot. I'm going to
Mhm.
introduce myself. So, Katia, could you maybe, and I'm only thinking Crystal, and if you think of something, please pop in.
Yeah.
Some of the questions that we tend to get a little bit over our chat is, what is your time blocking for doing your agent locator look like,
Mhm.
as well as your calls look like? And have you noticed that you need to be always changing maybe the time of day that you call because it can vary? So could you maybe tell the
Mhm.
audience a little bit about
Yeah.
the schedule?
So basically, I'm in Agent Locator every day. Like I find like, and I tell like our team this all the time, it honestly could be a full-time job, because even if you like set up the like campaigns and everything, there's still so much maintenance that goes into it. And I have, like I said, I've had Agent Locator for like 3 years now. But I've only really started like diving in deep since like November. But I mean, I have so many older relationships there, right? So I can spend like a whole day going through each file and seeing like, oh, okay, this person, this is what they were looking for. So I'm really in there every day. I would say like what I do, I wouldn't say I necessarily like time block, but I do make sure that I do my agent locator maintenance on the daily. If I'm at home and I'm busy with kids, basically any emails that I get that this person was active, or
Mhm.
if they like 3 times, or if they like the property, or sorry, viewed 3 times or like the property, immediately I send them an email right away. It doesn't matter what time it is. But
Right.
if I'm getting emails saying that this person's active, I actually don't like even open those until I'm in the office in front of my computer. Because then what I do is I actually go into that file and make sure like everything's updated, make sure that I have my tags all lined up so I know like when I've called them, but I go in and I do a double check every single time just to
Okay.
make sure like that person that's active, I know what they're looking for, their criteria is correct. I've reached out to them recently. So I'm always like, I usually come in with like 10 unread emails every morning that
Mhm.
I'm going into like 10 different people's accounts and kind of reminding myself like what they're looking for, right? Call wise, I call them during the day. For myself, like I don't have a choice really. I have two small children, so to call them
Yeah.
like after 5 is like impossible. But I feel like I've had like relatively good conversations during the day. It hasn't really like affected me at all in a negative way. If anything, like what I'll do, like I mentioned before, is if I have somebody I've tried calling a few times and they're not answering, I'll just shoot them a text message. And then usually I'll get a response. I haven't had anybody rude yet, so I'll take that as a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. But I will say I am in it like every day, whether it be for maintenance or checking on people. Like I'm in there on a daily basis. It's definitely like a full-time gig.
And, and for those that are watching, Katya, how do you start your conversations with those people? So somebody that you have never spoken to before, you're getting the notifications that they're active, they're liking properties. How do you introduce yourself, or how do you start that conversation with those individuals?
So I never bring up real estate. I will call them and I'll say like, hi, my name is Katya. I work with Our Neighborhood Realty. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Like, how's your day going? Are you enjoying the weather? Like basically anything except for real estate. And then like we'll usually talk for a little bit, and then I'll say, oh, like I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to log onto my website. It looks like you were looking for a property in Clarington. I just wanted to see like where you are with your search, if there's anything that I can help you with. I found the most important thing about the calls is that honestly, more than half the people that I was calling, their criteria was completely wrong. So I definitely, that also gave me a lot of value in calling, because I was like, oh, okay, well, this person's looking for literally the opposite of what their search is set up as. So that changed things as well for me.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I never like lead. I introduce myself obviously as an agent, but I never like lead with real estate. I always ask how they are doing personally, and then I go from there. I just, for myself, like I always consider myself to be like a relationship based agent. So it doesn't feel like genuine to myself if I'm just like, hey, like, are you looking to buy or sell? Like that's just not how I am. But I think with these last few months, that's like me also growing into myself and figuring out like what is like my rhythm, I guess, you know, like how to be a shark, but also genuine and also not just transactional, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Do you find, for the most part, I mean, not everybody's going to answer the phone, and you don't leave messages. For the most part, do you find people are willing to share a little bit more with you once you've broke that boundary?
Yeah, I think so. Like,
Yeah.
I honestly, I was very surprised how receptive people were on the phone. But they've been like pretty open. I've honestly had quite a lot of phone calls where I start off in the office, but because I share an office with somebody else who is usually also on the phone, I end up in the back room because I'm on the phone for like 40 minutes with one person. And that happens like a lot. And I always say with real estate, like agents are like therapists, marriage counselors, like divorce lawyers, like we're everything. And honestly, sometimes you're on the phone for like an hour with a lead because they're just divulging all this information on why they're, you know, why they're looking to sell, or like why they need to buy, or why they need to live where they want to be, like just everything like you can think of. But I've had a ton of calls that are well over half an hour. So people are very open.
Wow. Do you think, because Katia, you do work on a system full of systems and plans and business plan. I know that about you and your group. When you look at how the market has shifted today and where all of our buyers and sellers are, do you feel like the Google leads are an imperative part of your business going forward?
Oh, absolutely. Like my goal this year was to do X amount of transactions, and I wanted 50% of those transactions to be new leads, like completely. Because I've always based my business, it's always been like repeats and referrals, which I'm super thankful for. But like I said, because I'm in a new area, I was like, well, I want I want half of my business to be new business. And like most of it has been new business. I think I'm actually going to end, based on my potentials down the road, I'm probably going to have like way more than 50% of my business be from agent locator. truthfully.
I agree. Crystal,
Mhm.
like, could we just bottle her up and just, put her out, it really is, and because I know Katya, she is an incredible mother. And
Oh.
it's not easy to have, you have two children under the age of,
4-year-old and 18 months old.
Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
busy.
I'll give her this. She's at the office pretty much every day for the hours that she can do as a mom, and she is incredibly focused on her business. And I
Mhm.
think that there's a lot for all of us to learn about the value of the leads and the value of going, okay, if I'm not getting the results that I want, I know I've got to do some changes.
Mhm.
And I think that, Katya, you are an incredible example of someone that's got a lot on her plate, but
Mhm.
is still absolutely rocking the business. And you're working all four pillars of your
Mhm.
business. It's not even just
Mhm.
we're just talking
No.
about leads. I mean, I could go
Yeah.
on forever about how she works her past clients, her sphere of influence, right? Any questions, Crystal, that you can?
I know there's questions in the chat about the campaigns and stuff, but we can ask that or answer those after. I think a lot is really, and from what I look at, is the biggest standout is the shift in the mindset, because I can look at accounts where people are doing what they're essentially should be doing in there. They're calling their leads. They're not tweaking though what they're doing reflective of what they're gaining. So they're not sitting there and looking at their business like, okay, something's got to change. I'm calling all these people and I'm getting a no, 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 no. So what am I saying, or what am I doing that, resulting in that response? What do I need to shift, and what do I need to change to make a more positive? That's something that's great on its own for everyone to look at. What am I doing? Because it's easy to point at everything else. It's everything else is broken, but what am I doing, or what can I do differently to actually make this work? And Katya has definitely done that. She's taken that, and of course, I'm sure you're a lot more comfortable on the phone now, making those calls, doing these things, because you've been doing it. You had no choice. I just got to do it. I got to do it, and you naturally start to speak what you say to people, because you know what people are responsive to, and where you start to kind of get some resistance, and it just helps, right? And then going in there, but being in your system every day, and I imagine you could, like you said, you can be in your system all day long. There's so much you could be doing in there. But it's just having the consistency of being in there and staying top of mind. And I really like how these people are, they're 3 years out. It doesn't matter when they're going to move. I want them to move with me. And that's a great mindset to have, because most of these people are not moving right away. They're your business in many cases for next year, even the following year, but it's keeping yourself top of mind, and that's key. And it's those follow-ups that are really ultimately gaining you the business. It's very seldom that initial conversation you're booking showings and going to the car. Let's face it.
Yeah.
It's very seldom. So I think that you are, on the track of, it's only going to spiral, because you're going to start getting referrals, if you haven't, from these people as well, right?
Yeah.
Because even though they're not moving, they may know somebody, and you've been so helpful up until now, that they just refer you out. So.
And there was
I did, like, last month, I sent out about 100 handwritten cards. I have a tag on my agent locator of, like, everyone I have their addresses for. So I know, like, some of them aren't moving yet, but I did write them a handwritten card and asked if they know anybody that is moving to pass my card along. So I mean,
let me ask you, Katya, it's not easy to get addresses from agent locator leads until you actually go do a listing presentation, or you're actually doing an offer with them, right? How were you able to get their address?
Honestly, it's just like through conversations. Like I'll be on the phone with them and start, like, okay, so this lady that I spoke to recently, she's in Clarington. She's always lived in Clarington, and she was telling me, they're not in a rush. This is their budget. They just want to find, like, the right home. And then I asked her, oh, well, where, like, because I live in Clarington, so I was like, oh, well, where, like, are you located? And she's like, told me her address and whatnot. And it was just like, it wasn't like it's not like a script. You know, it's not like, okay, well, what's your budget? Where are you living? What's your address? It's just like a natural part of the conversation. Like it usually ends up in, oh, well, where are you currently living? Like, oh, you want to move to Port Hope? Are you currently in Port Hope? And like people usually will give their addresses. And then
That's
like
great.
it's kind of been like a natural thing.
Well, that's a huge accomplishment because that's not easy
Yeah,
to do
trust
over
me.
the
When I
phone
get
when
an
somebody's
address, I'm like,
admitting.
yes.
Yeah, you're happy to. There was
Yes.
another thing that I noticed too, everybody, and I wonder if you guys did too. When Katia was going, okay, I've got to make these calls, and just so you know, I mean, she would come into my office and go, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I'm really uncomfortable, I don't know that I can do it, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? It was not easy, but she started at the end. Right. She had had 3 to 4 years of leads. And she said, I started going on the last page and just talking to them. There is so much that we can get from our older leads if we just make a phone call to them. Right. And I think that that's a huge thing. I think sometimes it's easy when we develop a lot of pages in our dashboard that we forget about page number 99. Right?
Yeah,
But
no,
she
I
was
would
like,
definitely,
I got to
yeah.
do the last one. I've got to work my way there and plus still keep an eye on the relogin notifications so she doesn't miss those new people coming on and coming on. But let me switch it up a little bit, Katia. And if okay, you wake up in the morning, the kids are giving you a real hard time, you know, and you walk in and it's raining and it's disgusting and you just right? Do you do calls when you're kind of not at your 100% ability, or do you reschedule and maybe go, okay, today might not be a good day?
That's like a hard thing to answer because I feel like it can be easy to make excuses and be like, oh, I don't feel like I can have a conversation. But I feel like a lot of the times, and like my teammate who sits with me will attest to this, but I'll come in and I'll be like, oh my God, like the kids is like, you know, like war at home this morning, like whatever. My mood is like completely off. And then I make a call and I have like one good phone call and I'm like good again, right? So like it's definitely easier to make the calls if you're feeling the day. But I mean, I have 2 small kids, so
Yeah,
sometimes I'm sleep deprived. So it's not like I'm feeling the day every day.
right.
So I don't know, like I feel like it's just pushing myself to do it whenever, and like it usually ends up pretty well. Like I did a couple weeks ago, it was the last thing I wanted to do, but I was like, no, I have to call this person. They're very active. And I was on the phone with her for like an hour.
Wow.
So like I don't know. I just call when you can. I don't think it's
That's a huge mindset ability. Like that's huge because a lot of the professionals will say it's okay to take a day if you're not, you know, whatever the situation is, you don't want to come across that way. But I think what I hear you saying is, yeah, I do have bad days because I got 2 small kids and, you know, I'm up all night, but I'm still going to attempt to make that call. I still going to try, right? And then you go ahead and do it, and then you get rewarded because you end up with a good conversation. And I like that you said it's easy to make excuses, right? You know, so just give yourself that little push. And that's a hard thing for a lot of us to learn how to do. It's a hard thing to walk into your office, whether or not it's your home office or here at the brokerage. It's difficult to leave your personal behind those doors, right? So what is it that drives you to be able to go, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to make that call, or I am going to go to work?
Well, I think like for one is like my why, which is my kids. Like I love to travel. I want to have like a good life. I want them to have a good life. Like I want to be self-sufficient. And I think for myself, like where my head's like really changed is if it's going to be another agent. So some days I come in and I'm like, okay, well, I'm calling all day. And I'll sit at my desk with my AirPods in and I will call for the majority of the day. But other days it's like, you know what, not feeling it, but I'm still going to call the people I have to call that are very active, right? And it's like, it's kind of just like, you know, if they're on my site, they're probably on somebody else's site as well, right? So I want to be their first point of contact, not somebody else, right?
Mhm.
So it's like that, or like I definitely have that urgency when I see people that like I would say like need guidance
Mhm.
in the industry, like that I feel need my help. Like I will always prioritize them, and no matter what I'm doing, like even if I'm not in the mood, like they will be my first call, absolutely. But then obviously I have other days where I'm here like for hours on the phone. But I definitely like, I mean, my kids push me like, and you know, I want to do well and I enjoy this job. I like helping, like I genuinely love real estate. And so for me, like the last few clients I've met through Agent Locator, like I forget they're from Agent Locator because we've meshed so well. And they're just people that I will continue to have in my life forever. Like we've just formed such a great relationship. So I love like getting to meet like all these different types of people that I like wouldn't have met otherwise.
Mhm.
Wow. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Mhm.
It
It's
was
pretty
like
cool.
Priscilla 2 weeks ago ended up doing a ton of business from an agent locator lead that won the lottery. Wasn't it like 30,
Oh my
40
God.
million dollars?
Yeah.
Like,
They
no,
bought, yeah.
seriously. Like, you know, and didn't know until she took her out to show her houses. And she was like, yeah, by the way, I'm a lottery winner. I won 40 mil. Right. And she was an agent locator. Like, you never know. Don't ever say these leads are no good, because
Mhm.
everybody Google searches when they want,
Everything,
you know,
anything.
buy or
Yeah.
sell or look.
Yeah.
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 Well, listen, I mean, Katia, I know you're probably sick of me saying this, but I'm a big fan. I'm a huge, huge fan, and I'm very proud of you because I know how difficult it
Thank
can
you.
be some days when you come in and your kid's giving you a hard time before you get to the office and you're like, oh my gosh, right? But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
get into work mode, right?
Yeah.
Somehow we all have the ability to go, okay, all right. Now it's about work. Does
Yeah.
anybody, Crystal, have anything? Open it up for questions for
Uh,
anybody?
yeah, if anyone has any questions, I know that there is some there. So I know Melanie is asking about the drip campaign. So that is, I guess, a personal campaign that Tara has developed and was working with Katya with. So that's their own drip campaign, which I believe is emails primarily with a couple text messages in there, or just emails.
Yep, there's email. It's
Yeah.
an 85-day drip campaign that I've created with text messages as well as tasks to remind yourself to check in on the lead, even just to go in the dashboard. But for any of you that don't already have a drip campaign, you know, Crystal and I have, if you go back to those old recordings, we've worked together with some of you to create a drip campaign, and I'm sure that that you guys can also get copies of that. Plus, some of our old recordings, we've actually talked about how you can create one email, the second email, the third email, and so forth.
Yeah.
But it does, and Agent Locator is also revamping some of their existing drips that I've actually been honored to have helped them with. So are those available yet for everybody?
The buyer and seller guides, those are now available we're working right now. Those are more for like on the website itself.
Okay.
If you guys want it on your website, or a copy of it, just email support. You can get a copy of those. Anyone new is coming on it, we're trying, I don't know if it is already implemented or will be implemented, where it's just going to be automatic. But they are done. They are fully edited. I know the first time buyer campaign, I feel like they're still working on that one a bit.
Okay.
But that, yeah, because I would add that in. Like I'm usually the person that adds it in, so I have not added it in, so I know it's not available yet in there. But once it's done, it'll be available to everyone, really. And often we'll have it in even a document. So if you even want to practice building campaigns, it's all just going to be copy paste.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, so it's pretty straightforward. It's already set out what to do, what to say, that sort of thing. So
I will tell everybody that's on today, like I said, Agent Locator asked me to kind of look over the drip campaigns and the seller and the buyer's guide. We did make some tweaks to it, and this first time buyers campaign that they are going to be putting out, it's actually really phenomenal. I was quite impressed. So the good thing is, for those of you that don't have, you can use an existing drip campaign, and you can also tweak it too. You can build on it, right? It's a good
Change it around.
start.
Yeah, it's just the foundation, right? You're going to play around with it and kind of build, add, remove, adjust, that sort of thing. So now Gabriel's asking, did the listing you have come from a buyer, a seller, Google lead?
A buyer.
A buyer? Okay.
They're all buyer leads. But honestly, like, they've all been buys and sells. I think the buyer I have right now, they're first time buyers, so it's only a buy. But I would say on my board, it's like over 50% are buys and sells.
Okay. Which is normal.
From buyer leads.
From buyer leads.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, you know, I don't discourage people from seller leads because it's great to have, but you're going to spend the same amount of money, get a fraction of the lead, same motivation. The majority of your good chunk, I should say, of your buyer leads have a house to sell. And when somebody's considering to sell or thinking about it, the first thing they do is go online and check out the homes of where they would want to move to.
Yeah.
Right. So they're often a buyer, a lead in someone's campaign or system as a buyer before they even sign up as a seller lead anywhere else. Right. So that's just something to consider. And it's all about asking the appropriate questions. Right. So
absolutely
figuring out how this person is.
Yeah.
And all the leads that you're getting are all in your database. So in your CRM system, are they all agent located leads in there? Or are you adding your own database in there as well?
Oh no, on my agent locator, it's only my agent locator leads. I do also have I have the feeding database. So all like my previous clients and like my sphere, they're all on that. But I will I've probably added about 10 to 15 new people on that CRM that came from agent locator. There's like 3 of them, for example, that they were thinking of selling in the spring, and then they decided they were going to push it to next year. So I've put, like, for me, I'm like, that's cool. I have a year to show them that we could work together.
Yeah.
Right? So I do I move those people to like my other CRM, and so they're getting this is just like a part of my business. Like, I have a whole other system for like what I do with like my previous clients and like my actives and whatnot. But I am like pushing those over. But the main search part is they are all an agent locator. I just move them over once I've had once I've had a good phone call with them, and especially if I have their address, I put them on the other one. They still stay an agent locator, but my other CRM is just like, okay, well, I know so they're going to get a Mother's Day card, they're going to get a Father's Day card, they're going to get holiday cards, pop buys, like if I have their address. So it's kind of maintenance.
Yeah, it's just organizing them really is for the day, right? They got these people and these people. So no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then as far as your follow-up, so I know, like, as you say, I got a year to work these people to prove why they need to work with me. Aside from you getting the notifications about activity, what are you doing to make sure you're not letting them slip through the cracks? So, because again, there could be a lead, like if I say, hey, I'm probably not going to move till next spring, all of a sudden I drop off as far as activity. So that's not pinging in your ear. What are you doing to make sure that these people aren't slipping through the cracks? So what does your follow-up look like with these individuals?
So one thing that I've really started utilizing is like the task feature on Agent Locator. So I always I set tasks. So if I speak to somebody on the phone and they say, oh no, I'm not looking yet, call me back in 2 to 3 months, or I'm looking in 2 to 3 months, or I'm gonna look in the summer, I have tasks set. So I got a notification this morning via email saying that I had a task due for this lead, right? I have to follow up with them again because I spoke to them 2 months ago. But I do also do my monthly newsletters in there. I send it out so I know that they're still getting something from me. And then, like I mentioned, the ones that they're not ready just yet, I but I duplicate it to my other CRM, and then I have I do probably I don't know, at least 6 pop-bys a year for my clients. So I move them there and I include them on there. I do soft touches. So I don't bombard them. I don't I send them my monthly newsletter, but I'm not sending them mail outs yet. I just do my pop-bys here and there for them if I have their address. If I don't have their address, I'll just text them and be like, hey, I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing, but not about real estate.
Perfect.
Just how are you doing?
So what she's doing is she's not forgetting about them, no matter how many leads build up, because there's always a buildup of leads. And you're relying on the task, to remind you to check in on Sue and Bob and Joe, right?
Yeah.
So I think
use the tasks and the notes section.
Yeah.
I always put notes on my calls all the time. Yesterday, I spoke to she was had come up yesterday, and it's follow up with her, and that wasn't looking for a son, his first. So I was sure, and I was like, you guys, you have any questions in the market? So I always people feel like you're listening. So, I always feel important thing. So when I talk again, because you listen to not everybody. I have 2 children. It's great. So, and are my best that help everybody.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. You cut out a little bit there. Just check your earpiece, Katya. Just check it just to make sure it's good. Yep. I mean, that's a superstar right there, in all honesty. I know Sid is asking, Crystal, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. And there's another question kind of related. So what Chris is asking, how many leads are you generating a month right now on average, Katya?
For Katya, she's on a team.
Oh, okay.
How much is coming through?
I think I have 3.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
No, or your mic or your earbuds or something's interfering with the signal from your earbuds to your computer.
Oh, that'll probably be better. Her dad does buy a volume of leads, so I think there's about six or 7 on the team. So she's getting a fair bit. Yes, that's better. Yeah, she's getting a fair bit. Now, the ideal budget for leads, I mean, Crystal and I have talked about this endlessly. She laughs. You talk about this every day, don't you? It depends on what your budget is, Sid. Everybody's affordability is different. I've said this the last time when Priscilla was with us, correct, Crystal, is it's using the leads. You can go on the lowest budget one, which gets you maybe around 25 leads. Honestly, when you're purchasing Google pay-per-click leads, it's good to start off slow to kind of get you in the rhythm of what your system is going to be. But it's just like winning the lottery. Your chances are greater the more tickets you buy. So when you really jump in and really buy a decent volume, and for me, in my experience, for the 18 years I've been doing this, I would want nothing less than 35 to 45 leads coming in every day. That would be my minimum. And then your chances of conversion are just so much more. And really, honestly, Crystal and I did the numbers on this quite a few times for our audience. Even though that cost per month may be right? And I get it. When you sell one property, it has paid for the system sometimes for 2 years. It is so worth the investment because your return is absolutely incredible. Any other thoughts on that, Crystal?
No, it's exactly that. So it's really what it's like you said, the more tickets you buy, the more opportunity. But it's also maintaining consistency and some sort of a plan, right? So we have filters in your system, and if you're consistent with those filters, your day-to-day workload is quite minimal, realistically. And I'm just pulling up this individual that kind of I can showcase. So he's got like he is on his, I can't remember what his conversion rate, but he followed like everything I taught him. He just followed it to a T. He did not like steer away from it. And I think he's going to be, I think with his year, he was a 2% conversion rate. He's now sending a crap ton on leads. And it's like he'll get anywhere from 2 to 5 leads a day. And then I'm looking at his filters that are in here. So between the first 3 filters, which you guys have 1, 2, 3, he's got 4 calls to make because he's already been in there. He's consistent in jumping in. And when I'm looking at his check-in, yeah, there's nothing. Like he's so organized and structured, and that's where it just creates that consistency. So as long as you guys log stuff and you use the tools that are given to you, you will, and then of course you play a part in how you actually talk to people. But if you are consistent with that, you will see, the rewards for your efforts, and leaving those great notes, like Hattie says, you want to be able to pick up those conversations where you last left off.
Yeah.
Right. It has a huge impact, and those little personal aspects too, the little things that they're telling you can have a huge impact. Like they had 3 kids, their dog just passed away, they whatever, something about their childhood home, like something that, really makes them feel special, like they're an actual person, not just a transaction to you. So all of that. But yeah, I'm just looking at his count. He's got, I think, because he's got about 966 leads in here and maybe 15 calls to make right now, because he's just so organized in here, right? Because again, we could talk to somebody today that isn't moving till, let's say the fall. Well, we know we don't have to talk to them instantly right again. So we kind of push and we follow up with them accordingly. So, but yeah, whatever you put into it, you just want to make sure that you have systems in place. And that's where, if you're starting off, I'd say somewhere between the 300 and 400 mark is kind of where you want to start. And then from there, just grow. I know a lot of people, they work it, they get their systems in place, they get a transaction, they increase their budget. So they take that first deal and take money from that to increase those budgets. Because again, once you have those systems in that flow, the probability of you actually gaining the transaction increases with those numbers.
For sure. And this is what we have to always remind ourselves. And I do this every single day, is we're just putting ourselves where the buyers and sellers are. Like, this is just like it was when I first started in real estate and there wasn't internet. The only way that we would be able to get business was if we door knocked, if we opened up the phone book, picked a page and code called, or we had a for sale sign on a listing and people would then page us to call them, right? So it's the same thing for us as realtors. It's the same thing for Katia. Katia is working 4 pillars of her business, but the Google pay-per-click leads is an important one because that's where all of our buyers are, right? We're sitting at a listing appointment and somebody says to us, "Hey, Crystal, are you going to advertise in the local paper?" And you're going to go, "No, because nobody reads it anymore. The local paper is now online," right? That's the importance of getting leads and being present online. And when you do get the leads, make sure you know how to run the system, right? It's one thing for people to call me, and I get calls every week to train and coach them on how to do leads. Like, I mean, every week. And if I had a nickel for how many people said, "Well, I've had Agent Locator for 2 years and I've done nothing, I don't know how to use it," then you got to self-check yourself too. How about you watch the videos and learn how to use it, and then maybe it won't seem so daunting when you open up the dashboard, because it is quite easy to use, in all honesty.
It's
And Caveat
distracting.
is benefiting from two systems, which is what
Mhm.
I do as well. I have my agent locator for my leads. The leads come in there, I work
Mhm.
them, they get listings, they go on my drip. I make the calls usually around day 15 to day 30, unless I need to sooner. Once I get my lead, what I call in the car, meaning I've gone to their home and I've done a CMA, or they're currently out looking at houses with me, then they go into my real estate CRM, because
Mhm.
now that lead is being treated just like my past clients, just like my sphere of influence, pop buys, birthday cards, invited to Christmas events, even if they
Mhm.
haven't done a deal with me, right? There's so much that you have the ability to do with these people rather than open up a dashboard and close it and go, I can't, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's a lot of our success, or anyone's success, is that self-check, 100%. And using the system, like how many times we have trainings where like, well, I just get the notification from my phone, so I just call them. No logging, no nothing. Well, they didn't answer. Okay, well, there's no logging, there's no history of events there, right?
You're
So
never
you go
going to
into their
remember.
system, you're
Yeah.
never going to get anything. There's nothing that you can trace and track and
Right.
put yourself on, on some sort of timeline with these people. So it's really utilizing the system. Now 30, I know, what is it? Donna, you're asking how much 35 to 45 leads would cost. That would all be reflective of where you're targeting, 100%. So your best bet is you reach out if you are not an agent located client. It's just to go on the website and fill out a demo. You can also, after this is over, you usually get an email from Zoom. If you reply to that email, it goes to me. It's like, if you have any questions, you'll usually get it tomorrow, I think. I get that email. We do have courses. So we have our lead conversion course. That is a series of videos that are geared around mindset, opening up conversations, how often you should call, handling objections, all that stuff, rather than just here's the system and here's the number. So that's going to direct you on that. And of course, we do have our how-tos, all the how-tos of how to use the CRM system. But what we do now here is we give you both of those courses when you sign up. So you get the lead conversion and you get the CRM step-by-step. Once you complete those, we have a 6-month training program for you guys. So we have a certain guarantee. And if you're jumping into that guarantee, you're going to have 6 trainings one-on-one, and then 6 like check-ins as well. Because we know that if you're actually following what we're telling you and giving you the resources, that you are going to get the deal. But you have to get through those 2 courses, because that's going to cover, the basics. How do I use my system? And like, how do I log a call? How do I change a search? That sort of stuff. And then the other is, approaching conversations, because we'll even listen to the phone conversations you're having. So if you're using the dialer in there, we'll listen and provide some feedback on, how we interpreted that conversation, or maybe, a suggestion is, it seemed a little bit direct and harsh, maybe try to be a little softer. And here's, a backdoor way of getting to that, that same, what you're trying to ask in that question. So
Perfect.
sometimes it's just constructive criticism, right? It's just kind of having somebody kind of listen in on what you're doing and provide some insight. And it's only to assist with getting you to where you want to go. Yeah, it's not meant to be anything like.
Katia, do you have any takeaways for everybody? Any words of final advice that you want to share?
I think honestly, the biggest thing for me was like, just because I was nervous to like call and like reach out to people, is just like telling yourself that they are interested in real estate. Like they came to you, right? You're not cold calling. So I think like that's like probably one of the biggest things that helped me. Because I was obviously like really nervous to like reach out to them, and I didn't want to get rejected and whatnot. But I think that was like the biggest thing, is that I just like kept telling myself they came to me and they want to know more about real estate, and I can help them. I can educate them like if they need it. And like they came to me. It's not cold calling. It's not door knocking. Like I'm not guessing if they're interested. They are interested. So I think for me, that was like honestly like the biggest thing to get out of my head. So
Yeah.
And
don't
you,
ask the question that leads to that they're not interested. I see all the time, they're not interested. What are you asking these people that's what they're coming back at you with? They've already signed up on your website. They're already getting listings. So I'm not sure what's being said. And of course, it's people that aren't recording their conversations, so you can't actually hear what's being said.
Yeah.
But it's like, no one should be like, I'm not interested. That should, like, that phrase should almost not come out of their mouth unless you're trying to sell them on going to look at houses this weekend or get into
Yeah.
that CMA right away, right? Where you're coming from that
Right.
sales approach rather
Yeah.
than a customer service approach.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's why like I don't normally like lead with real estate
Mhm.
as well. Like I normally just ask them how they're doing or like
Yeah.
something relevant of what's going on.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like so transactional, which I feel
Mhm.
like for me has worked, and it's like authentic to how I am as an agent, because I am a very like relationship based agent.
yes.
Mhm.
So it kind of like mirrors like how I actually work. So
It's
that
true.
helps.
And you're doing good, kiddo.
Yeah, I'm trying.
You're doing good. This has been amazing. I think I'm excited, Crystal, to showcase some, great realtors that just kind of went, all right, let's figure out what I'm doing wrong and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So again, before we sign off, Katia, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your experience.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Mindset is
Mhm.
everything, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is.
Never forget it. We got to
Yeah.
remind ourselves of it every day.
Yeah.
It's a tough world out there.
Mhm.
All
Absolutely.
right. Well, I'm in a bidding war and
Awesome.
agents calling
There you
me.
go. Awesome. Well, thanks, Katya. Thanks, Tara, as always. And thanks, everyone that joined us. We'll see you all again in a couple weeks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.